Alright, so the big news up front here, there is Cyborgs and Helldivers 2 now, and oh boy, are they terrifying to fight. But this raises some interesting questions of, who are these cyborgs? Where did they come from? How are they related to the automatons? Did the automatons come first, or the cyborgs come first? Well, these are all questions I can answer for you today, to your viewers, so buckle in, and let's get ready to talk about it. Before we get into talking about the cyborgs of Helldivers 2, I feel like it's important we cover where exactly these cyborgs came from, because there was cyborgs in Helldivers 1 during the First Galactic War. Now, this may not be a huge surprise, but it's interesting to learn that the cyborgs were originally just normal human citizens of Super-Earth that were living on a planet called Cyberstan, which you're going to know very well because in recent events, we just went back to Cyberstan to go fight on it. On Cyberstan, there was a human colony that did all sorts of mining and collecting metal for Super-Earth. But Cyberstan here is a frozen hellscape that was very inhospitable. The citizens of Super-Earth that lived there would frequently augment themselves with robotic legs, robotic arms, chainsaws, saws on their hands, like this guy I'm showing right here who's got a chainsaw arm and a saw hand. And they did all this to better survive their environment and better mine the materials on the planet there. As the citizens of Cyberstan continued to upgrade themselves with robot arms and brain implants and stuff, they got further and further from feeling human because they became more machine than man. And they also kind of realized, hold on a second here, we're kind of getting the short end of the stick. We're on this frozen hellscape mining for Super-Earth that is light years away, and we have nothing to do with. Why don't we do all this mining for ourselves and create our own society where we feel more comfortable and robotic-y? And initially, the citizens of Cyberstan tried to secede from Super-Earth peacefully and said, like, hey, we'd like to be on our own, we're getting the short end of the stick here, we're gonna go off our own. Super-Earth, however, did not like this, because on Cyberstan, they were getting tons of materials that they could build all sorts of ships with and stuff, and they didn't want to let that raw material supply go. So what did they do, of course? Caused a fiasco, I'll say. Allegedly, as the story goes, a cyborg from Cyberstan did some very naughty things on Super-Earth and might have caused some problems that killed some civilians. So, Super-Earth uses as a reason to go in and try to invade Cyberstan, which led to some of the events of Helldivers 1, where they were fighting the cyborgs, and this turned out into an all-out war with the original Terminids, and the original Illuminate, and yada yada yada, Helldivers 1 stuff. Let's move on to what's going on with Helldivers 2 now that we know the backstory. But before we get into the new cyborgs, it's time to play everyone's favorite game show, Guess That Terminid! Ho ho ho! Welcome back, everyone. It's your favorite host in the galaxy, Liberty Joe, and we're here today with everyone's favorite game, Guess That Terminid. Now, you know the rules, but I'm going to explain them anyways, because that's what I get paid to do. Behind this curtain here, we've got a Terminid, and our lovely contestant here, Helldiver Frank, he's only going to see the shadow of that Terminid we've got back there, and he's going to have to guess what it is. Helldiver Frank, do you have anything to say to the lovely viewers before we get started?
I don't know why I'm here. They picked me up out of cryo sleep and now I'm playing a game.
Oh, silly Frank. You're supposed to say you're excited to guess what Terminid's back there.
Oh, yep, okay, got it. I'm excited to guess what Terminid's back there. Wahoo!
All right, that's what we love to hear. Jimmy, turn on that spotlight.
Okay. Let me think here. I think it's a charger, but it's not just a charger. It's a charger wearing a blue party hat holding maracas.
That's a real specific guess there, Frank. Let's see if you're right. Jimmy, drop the curtain. Wow, I didn't know we were putting party hats on the Terminids now. Okay, Frank, you were spectacularly right. That is a charger wearing a blue party hat holding maracas. You win a Super-Earth issued Super Goldfish.
Oh, wow, this is what I've always wanted since I was a little boy.
That's fantastic, Frank. I'm so glad you're happy, because you're also being shipped off to Cyberstan, because we need all the support there. We can get the cyborgs back. Anyways, everyone, tune in next time to your favorite game show, Guess That Terminid! If you enjoyed this random game show interruption, please consider subscribing to the channel to see more nonsensical interruptions like this and allow me to continue to be absolutely deranged on the internet. Thank you, and back to the video. Alright, now that the game show interruption is out of the way, because, you never know when a game show is going to pop up in the middle of your lore video, but, happens to the best of us. Alright, back to the task at hand here. Cyborgs, automatons, everything. Helldivers 2, automatons have been here since the beginning, right? And they sure seem like they're successors to the cyborgs. Fully mechanical beings versus the partially mechanical beings that were the cyborgs. And their symbols and flags look very, very similar as I put them up on the screen here. And looking at these logos, you can just tell that they are related to each other. And which we could tell too because it's robots and partial robots. We knew they were related. I'm getting too far into that part. But the logos here. You've got for the cyborgs, a red star split into 4 parts. For the automatons, you've got a black star split into the exact same 4 parts, just with a gear around it. So again, more proof. Absolutely related, as we're now finding out. Just going over this again, because, you know, things we knew in the past and we're now finding out to be true. Very cool that we are finding out to be true, and the fact that we were all right. The automatons were, in fact, made by the cyborgs on Cyberstan and spread around the galaxy to help take over and fight back against Super-Earth. And now we are finally seeing those cyborgs that are controlling the automatons. We always wondered, like, are these truly autonomous beings? Even though there was hints that they actually had human brains in them from some various reasons. Again, if you haven't seen my automaton video, go check it out. I get into that. There's brains in there. It's kind of scary and weird. That's why they harvest all the people. Okay, back to the point at hand here, though. Let's finally look at the cyborgs that we have been fighting in Helldivers 2 that just dropped. Now, the first cyborg we're going to look at here is named the Radical. The Radical here is the easiest to defeat of the 3 cyborgs in the game so far, and I say easiest lightly because they are not easy to defeat, they're actually quite scary, but it's the easiest of the 3 we're going to discuss today. The Radical here has a hydrogen-infused plasma scattergun and techno-martial arts, which all sound very fancy, but the hydrogen-infused plasma scattergun is just a fancy shotgun, and the techno-martial arts is they kick you really hard. But I don't want to exactly sell them short here, because them kicking you really hard is actually pretty impressive and says a lot about them. The Radicals here are clearly far more intelligent than the basic units of the automatons. They will actually use strategy when they're attacking you. And also when they see you, they immediately know what you are and they come to attack you. Unlike the automatons, who will look around and be like, wait, what's that over there? And think before they attack you, the Radical here sees you once and immediately runs straight towards you. And as far as strategy, they actually will use a strategy to attack you. They will immediately throw a smoke grenade between you and them to try to confuse you on which way they're coming from. This is far smarter than the automatons, who will just literally walk straight towards you and keep firing blindly. The Radical here is using some intelligence and shows that they are definitely still human and have a plan on how to take on the Helldivers. And again, I don't actually want to sell their techno-martial arts, even though it's a silly name. I don't want to sell it too short because it's actually fairly impressive. The Radical is faster than any Helldiver sprinting. They will catch up if you try to run. Like, even if you're wearing light armor, the Radical can out-sprint you and will catch up to you. And as they're trying to catch up to you, they'll even throw a flying leg at you, jump, and knock you over. And as you get knocked over, they'll try to stomp you or just try to blow you up with their shotgun. So that's you know, not ideal for Helldivers. But it shows the Radicals here are quite smart and quite the dangerous enemy, even though they are still the easiest one to defeat. But we wouldn't be finished talking about the Radical if we didn't talk about how sturdy they are. Because just looking at them, it looks like they wouldn't be too hard to take down because they're not wearing a lot of armor. They're wearing a little bit in various locations, but overall, they're not that armored. You can even see some fleshy bits around the shoulders and stomach and whatnot, and obviously their head. But they have got a ton of health. If you're using a fast-firing, low-damage weapon like an SMG, like I personally like to run usually, you're going to have a tough time taking these down. They are going to eat up a lot of damage. So against these, I suggest using a higher damage gun that'll actually get through that armor quicker and take them down better. Because these guys, they can take a hit in a fight, so you got to watch out for them even though they are still the easiest enemy of the Cyborgs. The next cyborg we have to talk about here is the Agitator. Now, the Agitator, on the surface, just appears to be a more heavily armored version of the Radical, which is not untrue. They have the same amount of health, and they just have a little bit more armor on them, but they function very differently. The Agitator here has a plasma cannon on their arm versus a shotgun, and they prefer to sit back and shoot you from a little further away. But that is not their only feature. Their most important feature is they are a command unit. They can take control of automatons around them, give them a speed buff, and command them all to rush right at you, which is a terrifying prospect, because the already fast automatons like the Berserkers now have just become faster and have been given a command to run straight at you. And that is, in fact, scary. But along with being scary, this feature here has fascinating lore implications. The fact that the Agitator here can command automatons proves something that I have suspected all along. The cyborgs here are the ones truly in control of the automatons. The fact that just being on the battlefield and their presence allows them to command the automatons around means that the cyborgs are the true overlords of this faction, and they have been controlling the automatons' movements all along from the shadows. They have just chosen not to show themselves until this time. Likely, they were on Cyberstan all along, and we were just not able to push there and find them. And this fascinating revelation here reveals a lot of things about how the automatons act. One, it explains why they were doing the actions they did. Like, why were they bothering capturing Super Earth citizens? Like, the automatons are purely mechanical. They don't need any sort of human bits or human work or anything to create more automatons. Even though I think that's not entirely true. There's a theory that automatons have a human brain in them, and I kind of like that theory. But we're seeing some different stuff here that might make sense. Maybe those automatons were capturing humans all along so they could send them back to the Cyberstan to be converted into cyborgs. Because you think about it, the cyborgs have been hiding out in Cyberstan all along, all throughout the Galactic War. But they don't have any good way to create more cyborgs. Automatons can be made purely mechanically, or just with a human brain, but we won't get into that here. Cyborgs, however, need a person to turn into another cyborg. So more likely than not, the automatons have been going around the galaxy, capturing Super Earth citizens and shipping them back to Cyberstan to make more cyborgs. And that may also answer, why haven't we seen the cyborgs until now? The cyborgs' numbers were probably too low to even bother making an appearance on the battlefield. They'd be wiped out immediately and it wouldn't be worth doing. But maybe they've captured so many Super Earth citizens and created so many new cyborgs by brainwashing them and sticking all sorts of robotic arms on them that they now have the numbers they need to finally break out of Cyberstan and truly threaten Super Earth. But interesting little lore tidbits aside here that we'll definitely dig into deeper in another video, I want to get back to the agitator at hand here and talk a little bit more about their intelligence in a fight, because it is very interesting. They, as I mentioned, command other automatons around, and they will actually command troopers in front of them to use as kind of a, I would say, meat shield, but more in this case call it a automaton mechanical shield. And they will shoot you from afar with their plasma cannon from behind those automatons and let those automatons soak up the damage while they stay safe. The agitator also has smarts. They can use cover. They'll hide behind low walls and other waist-high objects and take cover from your fire. And if they can't see you, they'll throw grenades at you to try to get you out of cover or just take you out altogether. And on top of all that they can already do, of course they have the same techno-martial arts that the Radicals had, and they can send flying kicks at you and still try to stomp you and whatnot. So these agitators here are truly a scary enemy, and they're even harder to take down because they have some light armor on them. Best way to take these down, I'm suggesting again, bring some heavy weapons, because it is just light armor on them, so you can punch through some heavy weapons, but boy, these guys are getting scary, I tell you what. So the last of the cyborgs you have to talk about here today is easily the most terrifying one. Awful to fight, it is the Vox engine. The Vox engine is a massive 4-treaded tank here that's covered in guns and missiles, and it is an absolute pain to fight. This thing is a menace on the battlefield. Let's talk about what the Vox engine is here, how it works, and then we'll get into some very interesting lore tidbits here. Again, like I said, the Vox engine here is a massive tank creature that roams around the battlefield looking for Helldivers. Very interestingly, the second it sees a Helldiver, it starts to just spew cyborg propaganda and rush straight at you, launching everything it's got at you. And what does it have exactly? I'll read them exactly, because there are some very wild cyborg nonsensical names. You've got the plasma macro culverin cannons that are located on each side of it on the top here. You've got the plasma duster miniguns mounted on each side of its undercarriage if you look down here. And on the back of it, you've got an Icarus missile launch pod that'll shoot missiles at you from afar. And this thing here is a menace to take down. It is essentially on par with the Factory Strider from the automatons. It is a monster. It actually replaces the Factory Striders in the missions that the cyborgs are in, so you don't run into both at once, because oh boy, that would be an awful time. But the Vox engine here has super heavy armor all around, and it does have a few weak points, luckily. It's got some weak points where you can take it down. On the back here, you've got some vents you can hit that'll, like, pop open a vent on the top, which allows you to throw a grenade into it and actually instantly kill it, which is very interesting and leads into some very interesting lore implications here. So again, like I said, you shoot the vents on the back and it pops open a hatch that allows you to throw a grenade in to destroy the Vox engine instantly. Is this just creative game design? Yes, but it also has creative lore implications, because the reason the hatch pops open, there is a cyborg inside here. There is a cyborg piloting this thing, and they are actually high-ranking cyborg officers that are enclosed in a sarcophagus. And the sarcophagus, when you destroy the Vox engine, flies out, lands, and you can actually see what's going on inside there, and I'll show you an image here. If you look at this sarcophagi here, you'll notice there is a cyborg that is chained into it and is controlling the thing, which may seem very interesting, and if you're a fan of Warhammer 40k, you know this theme is very, very similar to Dreadnoughts and how they operate. Someone gets locked inside, chained to the machine, and they control it for their whole life. Exact same setup here. This Vox engine is controlled by a cyborg that is deep inside the machine and has been locked in here in order to control it around the battlefield. This likely means that this cyborg that is inside the Vox engine here has been so mechanically changed, it has no need for food anymore. Or if it does have any need for food and water, the Vox engine can supply it with whatever stores it has around. This here is essentially as close as you can get to an automaton, while still technically being cyborg because there's a little bit of brain and flesh in there. But these Vox engines here are meant to be a massive symbol of power for the cyborgs, and that is why, as I mentioned earlier, once they see a Helldiver, they start blaring cyborg propaganda. That is meant to be, one, to scare the Helldivers, even though, of course, it doesn't work, because as Helldivers, we're not scared by little cyborg propaganda, but it's also meant to hype up the cyborgs and automatons around them. This giant, massive machine of war, blaring all sorts of fancy cyborg propaganda that they love to hear. That's meant to hype up the other cyborgs, hype up the automatons, even though they're just robots and they don't need a lot of hype, you just tell them to go. Not to the point. This thing is meant to be a massive machine of war, but it's also meant to be a massive symbol of power for the cyborgs and to get them ready to fight Super Earth. Now, I think that's enough of talking about the cyborgs that we have in Helldivers 2 right now. I want to talk a little bit about the cyborgs I think will be coming to Helldivers 2 in the future, because only 3 cyborg enemies? Oh ho ho. I think we've got a lot more than that to come. This is such a fascinating fashion, there's got to be many more things they're putting in. I think in the future we could see cyborgs similar to like we saw in the first game, something like the Immolator that I'm going to throw up real quick, which is a flamethrower unit, or the Grotesque here, which are not as mechanically beings, but more just weird flesh abominations. We might see something like that will come rushing at you. I think there's a lot more potential here that we're definitely going to cover in another video about comparing the two, the Cyborgs from Helldivers 1 and the Cyborgs in Helldivers 2 here, but we'll get to that a later day. Right now, I just want to let you guys know, I think there's more cyborgs coming, so watch out, they could get even scarier in the future. So with that, I want to say thank you, hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and you've learned a little bit about the cyborgs here, and please let me know in the comments down below what cyborgs you think are coming in the future, what interesting lore tidbits you think are related to cyborgs here, if you think I'm good at talking about cyborgs or not. So leave a comment down below on what you think and feel, leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and if you want to see more, consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks, I'll see you guys next time.